Okay, long-awaited version 0.107.1. The most important thing here by far is the RNG rework. Wow, I can't talk. The second this news dropped, it was very obvious that this needed to go, and this is the number one thing that I care about. I don't really care about much else other than the fact that this is fixed. I'm just going to celebrate this and enjoy being able to play the game again. It's been really cursed. But let's get into it. Major update 2, version 0.107.1. Hey Slayers, our second major main branch update is here with 4 patches in one, not including hotfixes. While we'll be covering a lot of things that beta players will already be used to, there are also a few big changes that will be totally new for everyone. One of those has been highly requested by the community in the past few days, and another has been very highly requested by the community in the past few months. So let's get into it. RNG Rework. Ed here, one of the mega crit engineers. It turns out that everyone complaining about receiving debt too often from Niao's Bones was right. We did in fact have some unusual RNG problems. Huge shout out to TCKMN for doing the research. Their 8-hour descent into madness was an entertaining watch, and we wouldn't have caught the issue without it. If you're interested in the nitty gritty, read TCKMN's full write-up. Here is a short version. Most games, including Slay the Spire 2, use pseudo-random number generators. A PRNG is fed a seed value, and given the same seed value, a PRNG will always generate the same sequence of random numbers. Each run has one primary run seed, a sequence of 12 numbers and letters. However, a run actually contains multiple PRNGs that individually influence your deck's draw, your combat rewards, your event choices, and the rest of the random elements in the run. Each one uses a seed derived from the run seed. Nice little image here. They're going to explain this down below, but what they're getting at is that like this one seed influences multiple things, not just one output. Since we fed different seeds to each PRNG, we expected their results to be completely unrelated, but we were wrong, and it turns out that our strategy allowed players to predict outcomes given knowledge of unrelated parts of the game. Let's visualize one example, the correlation between your first act and the curse you receive from Niao's Bones. In both cases, we generate a decimal between 0 and 1, but from different PRNGs. For your first act, if the decimal generated is less than 0.5, you get overgrowth. Otherwise, you get underdogs. This worked very similarly in Spire 1, so a thing in Spire 1, basically, was we had 4 easy pool encounters. Pretty similar to Spire 2, actually. This RNG output would also be between 0 and 1, and like below 0.25, you would get Cultist. Between 0.25 and 0.5, you get like a Louse, whatever, etc. So they would assign values of like, if you generate this value from X to X, you get this encounter, right? And what that would do is allow us to say like, oh, I got a 0.1 on this, and so therefore my potion chance or my chance to get this sort of card or whatever is this, or my lightning's gonna hit here, whatever. They knew about this going into Spire 2, and that's why they tried to use this where they fed different PRNGs to get around it. But I guess they're gonna get to this. It's just a C# issue with like the coding language and this old like function from the 1950s that still made it into modern day coding. For Niao's Bones curse, we use the decimal to pick from a list of 10 curses. Between 0 and 0.1, you get clumsy. Between 0.1 and 0.2, you get debt, so on. Here's a scatter plot of the raw numbers generated given 10,000 random run seeds on version 0.103.3. There is a clear correlation in this result. For example, if our act roll is over 0.5, we're in the underdogs, then it's highly likely that our Niao Bones curse roll will be under 0.5, which cuts the potential curses you can obtain in half. Aside from the balance ramifications, once knowledge of this exploit is out there, players are naturally incentivized to use it to play optimally. This is my main gripe with it, is that it becomes necessary in order to play correctly to think about this. We don't want to encourage rote memorization of correlation tables as it is tedious and unfun. Very real. Thus, in version 0.107.1, we replaced our PRNG implementation with a more modern one. The resulting scatterplot is evenly distributed, exhibiting no human detectable correlation. Rest assured that your suffering is now truly random. Thank God. Ever since I found out about this, I've just been like dreading playing the game because every time I just have to purposely ignore information. Or if I was like thinking about it, every time I lose a run, I could just go back and be like, well, if I just used the tools that were available to me, I could have won because I could have known X and Y, right? And that's a horrible thing to think about instead of just blaming you, the player, for losing the run or like, you know, your mistakes, not just like, oh, I just purposely ignored this information that I could have been using, whatever. Speaking of updates that will be new to all players, I've also been busy working on support for Steam Workshop. I think a lot of people will be very excited about this. This is basically just mods, and that's really big. We built Slay the Spire 2 with modding in mind, and the game has had an integrated mod loader from day one. It's been awesome seeing the outpouring of creativity from the community, but we purposely haven't been advertising mod support as we knew it still needed some work. Previously, the only supported way to install mods was to download them and place them next to the executable. With this patch, Steam Workshop support has officially been added. Now you can browse and install mods directly from the workshop, and they will be automatically downloaded to all devices when you play on Steam. So, for people that weren't familiar with Spire 1, we had a lot of custom characters and a lot of custom game formats. I think the most popular one was probably Downfall. I didn't play a lot of it. I just didn't play modded content in general, but I know a lot of people did. So I very much assume now that a couple things will happen. One, we'll probably have a Downfall port or a Downfall version in Spire 2, if not already. I don't even know if we have it already. And two, people are probably going to mod like Watcher into the game and like the old characters in, or maybe old bosses and old fights. Maybe we just mod Act 4 into Spire 2 and just play it as is. Could be kind of fun. I think for now, I'm mostly just going to play unmodded content since that's generally just how I prefer to play this game. But if you're looking for extra content, that is definitely a thing for sure. If you're a mod creator, upload your mods using the tool here. And if you're interested in playing some mods, check out the new workshop. That's all the updates from Ed, passing off to Casey to introduce the Bestiary. Casey here. This patch brings us the Bestiary, which beta testers will already be familiar with. This is a much requested feature for the first game, but at the time I didn't want to create it as there wasn't a good delivery mechanism for an overarching story. However, in the world of Slay the Spire 2, we have a lot more on the narrative side, more creature animations, etc. So we've been hard at work creating this final screen in the compendium outside of the achievements page, which is to come much later. Currently, players can find a list of monsters they've encountered here as well as their moves and animations. In the future, we plan to add all sorts of information about the game's enemies, including stats and lore. Yeah, so I think the main thing I want to see from this is moveset patterns and like percentages of using moves. I don't think that's currently in the game, but as far as being able to actually like pull up something and not go on a spreadsheet to look up like what's the chance this guy uses this next move, or I forgot this attack pattern of this boss and I want to know what it does next turn, or like calcing odds basically for what your best line to play is, that sort of thing. I think the more tools we have in game to do that, the better, so you don't really break your immersion and have to like alt tab out. And I'm sure that will be added. It looks like there still is a lot of work to be done here, and that's mentioned here. Enemy changes. Here lies Doormaker. Unfortunate. I actually kind of like Doormaker's vibes and what it was going for. Aeon Glass is a much better enemy, but I honestly think that Door still being in the game would be kind of cool. I know a lot of people hated this enemy, but we had a lot of statistics showing it was actually the easiest Act 3 boss, even though people felt like it was the most oppressive. I think it rewarded good micro and having a game plan, and I think all the bosses right now are not doing that as well as Door did. Although the exhaust phase I really didn't like because it was often just a buff for the player. Okay, as many of you have heard by now, the Doormaker has been removed from the game. As we said in the patch notes of the beta patch that brought this change, while Doormaker had interesting micro decisions in the fight, he was over the complexity threshold of what we want and had lingering issues. I think this is touching on what I liked about it. I don't necessarily think it's that complicated compared to, let's say, the test subject. Like, test subject basically has 3 phases as well. It doesn't necessarily go every single turn it rotates through them, but the amount of like information and ideas that you need to have are kind of the same, right? Like, I have phase 1 and I need to know what the effect of phase 1 is, where I play skills and I get punished, and phase 2 adds wounds to my drop pile, like multi-hits and scales, and phase 3 is going to add burns, that sort of thing, and go intangible. That to me is the same level of complexity that Doormaker had, where it's just 3 different effects happening. It was just harder to track, I guess. But I don't necessarily think it was too complicated, but I don't mind too much. They just said they wanted to sort of refresh, and they are introducing Aeon Glass to the main branch. We don't want to spoil it too much for non-beta testers. That's all we're going to say. Interesting. Another big change you'll notice is Hive's infested prism enemy has been totally reworked, but again, no spoilers here. All right, now it's time to get into the nitty-gritty notes. So 2 things here. I think it's really interesting that they probably added 2 enemies that are going to make a lot of main branch people, like people that have not been following beta branch changes, very shocked. These are harder fights than most of the things in the game right now. And it's kind of nice that they're willing to just drop this on the main branch, even though I expect there to be backlash. And there shouldn't be backlash, to be clear. I don't think there should be. But I appreciate that they're willing to just do it, even though they know that they're kind of just making the game harder, and doing that in the past has made people very upset. We'll see what the general community response is. I think most people on Beta Branch have liked these fights, at least the people I've talked to and the people in chats, but obviously I have like a closed circle and don't know how general public feels about stuff. I am acknowledging my bias, all right? All the stuff here is just a catch up of all the patches from the past like month and a half or whatever. There's not really anything new at the end either, so this is essentially everything we already knew. You can watch some of the old patch notes if you want my opinions or more detailed opinions on these things. These are basically just completely unchanged. The podcast listeners better really appreciate this. Not necessarily the actual podcast that we're doing, but all the audio only listeners. This is like so much reading. Why is this patch so long? Ugh. Content and balance. Bestiary is now available in the compendium. Added 3 more badges, damage leader, debuffer, and combo. Terminal run modifier can no longer bring a player below 1 HP. For ancients, added new Neo Relics Kaleidoscope. Upon pickup, gain 2 card rewards with cards from other characters. Fishing Rod, every 3 normal combats, upgrade a random card in your deck. And Silken Trust, enchant all cards in the first card reward with Glam. We've had all these on Beta Branch for a while here, so I'm going to just skip down a little bit. Rework Tezcatar's Pumpkin Candle Relic, now extinguishes after 5 combats and can be kindled at rest sites. Buff Niao's Booming Conch Relic, in addition to drawing extra cards, now gains 1 energy at the start of the elite combats. Buff Niao's Fury card lets you choose which 2 cards are fewer to return from your discard pile instead of selecting randomly. Buff Tezcatar's Nutritious Soup Relic, in addition to making your strikes cost 0 and giving them eternal, now makes all your strikes deal 3 additional damage. Move Tezcatar's Seal of Gold Relic to option 3 so it shares a pool with Pumpkin Candle. Change Pale's Eye Relic. If an enemy has vulnerable and you take an extra turn, the enemy's vulnerable no longer decrements before your extra turn. Also applies to other debuffs and other powers that decrement at the end of the enemy's turn. For me, the funniest thing here is that I've kind of forgotten how long we've had these things and how they haven't been on the main branch. Like, I've just exclusively been playing Beta Branch. I don't think I've gone back to main for anything. I kind of thought all these were older than they are, but I guess they're relatively new. Okay, enemies. Replace Act 3 boss Doormaker with a brand new boss, Aeon Glass. Its moveset and Withering Presence mechanics were refined throughout the beta. Reworked Infested Prism. Reworked the Axebox fights into a single, more challenging Axebot. Changed Skulking Colony. This is the HP buffs, the damage threshold increase, and the moveset changes here. Changed Haunting Ship. Now applies 3 Waker on turn 1 instead of 1 it attacks. Ramming Speed move removed. Now alternates between Swipe and Stomp, always starting with Swipe after Haunt. Changed Punch Construct. Fast Punch now leads into Strong Punch instead of the reverse. Ready now leads into Fast Punch and also applies Frail instead of Weak. Adjusted enemy HP at the extremes of the ascension curve, slightly lower at low ascensions, slightly higher at high ascension. Again, another change I have not felt since I've not played on low ascension or gone to main branch, as I said. But I do really appreciate this design philosophy here of making the game more approachable for newer players. And we've, again, had all these changes so far, so nothing new for Beta Branch people. Buff Soulfish, Scream move damage increase from 11 to 12 to 13 to 15. Nerf Ruby Raider Assassin, damage decrease from 11 to 12 to 10 to 11. Nerf Phantom at lower ascensions. Nerf Waterfall Giants, HP healed at lower ascensions decrease from 15 to 10 to 15. Events, change Slippery Bridge events no longer offers to remove the same card multiple times unless it is already offered every other card in your deck at least once. Something special now happens if you have multiple Lantern Key cards, does not apply to multiplayer. Potions and Relics, buff the Boot Relic, damage increase now also applies to Austie attacks. Colorless, buffed Gold Axe card in multiplayer now deals damage equal to the number of cards played by all players, not just its owner. Nerf Fasten card, additional block decrease from 5 to 7 to 4 to 6. Ironclad, reworked Conflagration card now deals 2 damage to all enemies 4 to 5 times, was just a single AoE hit. Reworked Drum of Battle card, now a 1 cost uncommon skill that draws 2 cards and grants 2 to 3 energy when exhausted. Buffed Howl from Beyond card, trigger move from start of turn to end of turn. Buffed Entrench card, can now gain extra block from enchantments by Nimble. Buffed Unrelenting card, damage increase from 12 to 18 to 14 to 20. Silence, reworked and renamed Follow Through card to Scare and changes rarity from common to uncommon. Change Nightmare card, if you select a card with an affliction on it, that affliction is now removed from the copies added to your hand the following turn. Change Predator card, rarity decrease from uncommon to common. Buffed Untouchable card, upgraded block gain increase from 2 to 3. Buff Pounce card, damage increase from 12 to 18 to 14 to 20. Nerf Blade of Ink card, Inky enchantment damage decrease from 2 to 1. Regent, reworked Parry card. Instead of granting block when you play Sovereign Blade now gains 10 to 14 block directly. So the block shown on the blade is affected by powers like Dexterity and Frail. Slightly reworked Sword Sage card, Sovereign Blade now gains replay 1. Changed Tyranny card, now triggers before Bombardment. Still haven't had that yet, but it's very cool. Changed Sealed Throne card, upgrade change from innate to lowering energy cost by 1. Buff Crescent Spear card, base damage increase from 6 to 8. Buff Royalties card, gold gain increase from 30 to 35 to 30 to 40. Buffed Furnace card, forge increase from 4 to 6 to 5 to 7. Buffed Monarch's Gaze card, energy cost decrease from 3 to 2 to 3 to 1. Nerfed Reflect, block gain decreased from 17 to 21 to 15 to 20. They could still nerf this, by the way. This thing is still ridiculous. Bulwark card, block decrease from 13 to 16 to 12 to 15. Nerf Patter card, block gain decrease from 9 to 11 to 8 to 10. Nerf Minion Sacrifice, block gain decrease from 9 to 12 to 8 to 11. I'm speedrunning these guys. Okay, Necrobinder, buff Death March card, additional damage increase from 3 to 4 to 4 to 6. Buff Sikkim card, summon increase from 2 to 3 to 3 to 4. Buff the Scythe card, damage increase from 3 to 4 to 4 to 5. Nerf Debilitate card, debuff decrease from 3 to 4 to 2 to 3 turns. Defect, change fusion card, energy cost decrease from 2 to 1 to 1. Now exhaust and loses exhaust and upgrade. This is actually pretty meaningful. I've had this in a handful of runs here. The most recent Overexplained run, this was a really big game changer, and in general is a much more pickable card now. Change Shatter card, now evokes all of your orbs twice. Damage decrease from 11 to 15 to 7 to 11. Still a ridiculous card, even after the nerfs. Change Tesla Coil Plus card, damage decrease from 6 to 4, but lightning triggers increase from once to twice. Buffed Hyper Beam card, damage increase from 26 to 34 to 28 to 36. Buffed Synthesis card, damage increase from 12 to 18 to 14 to 20. Buffed Uproar, damage increase from 5 to 7 to 6 to 8. Buffed Infused Core Relic now also grants lightning orbs deal 1 additional damage. I still have never seen this relic. We'll see if that happens. I'm kind of excited to try it in a run. Multiplayer, nerfed multiplayer scaling for enemy artifacts, slippery and skittish powers. Speedrunners are rejoicing at this. Stratagem card is no longer banned from the colorless card pool in multiplayer. Buff Tag Team card, replay effect now triggers on deal damage to all enemies, attacks 2. Changed Fossil Stalker in multiplayer now gains a set amount of strength if it hits any player instead of gaining strength for each player hit. Quality of life, during the Gremlin Merc fight, if the Gremlin Merc didn't steal any gold but Fat Gremlin escaped, you now receive 50% of the normal gold reward instead of 0. Also speedrunner buff, because while we were doing speedruns, we were just letting this thing run away since it was faster than trying to kill it. Okay, user interface and experience. General, add an Ascension first time tutorial pop-up for single player and multiplayer. If errors occur on a run start, a pop-up is now displayed instead of a black screen. An error is now displayed when Steam crashes. The feedback tool now displays an error if your feedback was not received, and added a translation issue option to the in-game feedback form. Implemented preferred Ascension for the random character option. Loading a current _run.save with a modded character back into an unmodded game now shows an error instead of a black screen. The player's hand now animates out of the way during the enemy turn. Limited the number of cards rendered during the Restowed clone animation to 15. Nave will say this is the worst change that was ever made in this game. Updated ancient card text backgrounds to fit more text and be slightly darker and embossed. Leaderboards. Added a global rank paginator. How do you say this? Like, what is this word? And adjusted arrow positions. Paginator? Interesting. What does that mean? You can now see other players' scores near your own. Move the game over screen leaderboards higher to make room for the toggle. Controller. Added controller navigation for badges in the game over and run history screens. The player info icons and run history and the modifier icons on the top bar. Improved controller navigation in the fake merchant shop. Pause menu button navigation now wraps. Ancients. Pale's Flash Relic now visually increases the max energy shown in your energy counter. When Vaku tells you how many times you visited, the number is now accurate. That's really fun. We've had that again, but hovering over a stale dialogue at Ancients now makes all dialogues opaque. Enemies Skulking Colony's health bar now changes color to indicate it cannot take more damage this turn. Improved Bernardus' hover tips. Necrobinder. Sacrifice card now previews how much block it will gain. Multiplayer added a more informative error pop-up for the Steam Bad Cert multiplayer error. Yeah, nothing's changed so far, really. That's why we're just kind of speedrunning, but we'll talk about it at the end. Art. Added general epic arc for Friendship, Booting Up, Soup, Poisoner, Scribbles, The Calm, Devastation, The 12, The Giant. Updated epic art for Hello Hello Friendship. Characters added portrait art for the following cards. Feral, Not Yet, Spite, Fight Through, Hailstorm, Synchronize, Iteration, Voltaic, Apparition, Abrasive. Added new character animations, Ironclad Heavy Attack, Necrobinder Cast, Regent Sovereign Blade, Defect Power Up. Ancients added Vaku background art and visual effects. Revised Neo's Fury artwork now centered. Enemies added new power art for Smoggy. Updated enemy art for Tunneler, Entomancer, Mauler. Added a multi-hit animation for Corpse Slug. Added an unstun animation for Rock Bullbug. Added Skulking Colony animations. Added new Soul Nexus visual effects. Tweaked the Vantum explosion to look right on a shrunken Vantum. Repositioned Sludge Spinner's death landing spot. Updated enemy animations for Vantum, Ceremonial Beast, Entomancer. Added Phobia Mode alternate art for Fossil Stalker, Haunted Ship, Skulking Colony, The Obscura, Twig Slime Medium. Why just Twig Slime Medium? I actually didn't catch that the first time around. I think, is that new? I doubt it. Added Phobia Mode alternate art for Zenweaver event. Audio, added background music for Soulfish and Kaiser Crab. Added sound effects for Kaiser Crab, Skulking Colony, Hyper Beam, Move, and cards traveling to a pile. Writing, Brilliant Scarf Relic description now specifies it only counts cards played from your hand. Reperform card wording now makes it clear that Doom is applied by Reperform's power rather than the card played. Fix inconsistencies in Jeweled Mass Relic wording. Exterminate card wording is now consistent with Conflagration card. The word power is no longer keyworded in Lost Wisps Relic description. Rework the Axebot death message to reflect that there is only one of them now. Added more translation text and fixed translation errors across many languages. Bug fixes. Fix save files being lost or corrupted after a PC crash, blue screen, or power outage. Made save operations fault tolerant to prevent soft locks, and improved reliability of setting saves on startup. Stopped cloud syncing settings.save and fixed Steam Cloud sync errors and duplicate run history files when syncing many files. Fixed black screen soft lock when Steam disconnected during room transitions. Fixed several crashes, applying powers to dying creatures, closing the game during startup, upgrading a card at a rest site, and entering rooms, and opening the card pile screen while targeting an enemy with a controller. Fix a Linux crash during combat when UI elements are removed mid-frame, a Linux crash when ICU libraries are unavailable, and audio staying muted after pressing volume keys or alt-tabbing on Linux. Restore the default rendering backend to D3, D12 for Intel 620 GPUs. Effects that make the next card free now correctly take precedence over effects that increase all card costs. Okay, honestly, like, this thing, when I first saw it in this game, was so jarring to me. But I'm glad this got fixed. This is actually one of the bigger ones. I guess this is like more than really a bug. That's just like a consistency thing. Like, it always works that way, but that's getting ahead of myself. Replayed cards now show the appropriate damage of powers wore off between replays. Fix cards in hand getting stuck if you try to play them while they're being transformed. The Night Terror modifiers can no longer kill you, and the sealed deck modifier is now affected by the multi-character card modifiers. The perfect badge is no longer awarded if you abandon a run at a boss. Fix several soft locks, returning to the main menu and resuming a run, playing compact with status cards in hand, the tutorial shuffle pop-up, and run histories from older versions. Fix score being wrong at Ascension 10, wrong floor count when submitting a daily score, and score separator lines showing while fetching or after a failure. Fix the potion hover tip not appearing when pressing B in the potion pop-up, and num keys for card selection not working when the mouse is too low on screen. Fixed input selecting errors for the new key bindings added after saving. Fixed a rare problem where the feedback screen was stuck open on launch. Controller input is now ignored when the game window is unfocused. The game no longer rapidly switches between controller detected and mouse detected with a controller connected. Fixed broken controller navigation off the top bar in the shop through rest site options with 2 rows of relics in the shop after buying out relics and colorless cards, and from relics to the reward screen after clearing the top reward. Fixed being able to start a single player run via controller where the Ascension tutorial was open. A loaded save with deprecated boss can no longer roll the same double box. Fix an issue with the game over screen after discovering multiple enemies while playing in Polish. Fix hover tips in the top bar, sometimes displaying in the wrong language after switching languages and continuing a run. Fix being able to target dead enemies with a controller. Fix the odds of a follow-up potion reward sometimes going up instead of down after an elite potion reward. Fix being able to open card inspection and toggle view upgrades with the same button press. Taking a card removal reward as your last reward no longer keeps the background faded out. This was happening to me during speedruns. I don't know if it's the remove that was causing it. I think it was something else that caused it, but I'm unsure. Okay, Ancients. Fix a crash when selecting Ancient Relic options. Players can no longer roll Teskata's Nutritious Soup Blessing with no strikes in their deck. Fix Vaku's Whispering Earring Relic, not correctly playing Stardust card, auto-playing cards into the next turn after Void Form, and not letting Unceasing Top Relic trigger when it plays your last card. Fixed Niao's Kaleidoscope Relic using up all of Silver Crucible's charges. Fix Niao's Silken Trust Relic in multiplayer only affecting card rewards for the host. Fix Nonu Pepe's Diamond Diadem Relic resetting its count after Hellraiser plays cards at the start of the turn. Leafy Poultice Relic no longer transforms the upgraded strike/defense from Niao's Talisman when both come from Niao's Bones. Fix visual and navigation issues at Ancients, the next dialogue bubble peeking in early, navigation back to Niao's Blessings from the card library, the card inspection button blocking the accept hotkey on Pandora's box, and wish card immediately selecting a grid card on the same controller press. Oh my god, okay, there's so much, guys. I'm trying so hard to get through it. I think there might be something like slightly new at the end, but so far it's really just the RNG stuff, which honestly, that's all I cared about, so big for me. Fix cards that should be ethereal sometimes becoming non-ethereal after killing Spectral Knight. Fix creature and boss visual effects occasionally failing to appear. Fix Flycanids spore effect lingering when its attack is interrupted. Fix Kaiser Crab appearing if you load into an already completed boss room and its Rocket Claw charge up sound effects looping forever. Fix a soft lock when setting up an infinite against Skulking Colony, and Skulking Colony's per damage cap now reset the start of both turns, so poison no longer counts towards it on your next turn. Fix a soft lock after defeating Infected Prism. Fixed Thieving Hopper soft lock when you have no cards for him to steal. Recentered Axebot so it reads as a single enemy. Fixed Ceremonial Beast background music transition not lining up with its stun. Fixed Living Fog missing its smoke and corrected its encounter name in the death quote. Fixed test subjects starting phase 2 with extra tank when killed by sleight of fetch via enfeebling touch. Fixed visual effects glitch when snapping jackfruit dies the reflect power. Inklet and Phantom's slippery power no longer loses stack when fully blocking a hit. Zapbot's high voltage hover tip now correctly sets its gain strength at the end of its turn. Fixed Parafright illusion keeping its negative strength from dark shackles when killed for the turn. Fixed Waterfall Giant not respawning and its steam spouts misbehaving after its death animation. Hid Lagavulin Matriarch sleep particles when awake. Fixed several test subject issues. We're almost there. Events. Fix being unable to give the foul potion to the fake merchant. Fix cards from other classes appearing in the infested automaton event. Fix being unable to discard potions in the punch-off event. Fix the soft lock if you somehow die in the Battle Worm Dummy event. I love the wording on this. They say somehow, like they're insulting you if you manage to do it. And no longer get its rewards after saving and quitting. All spoils maps cards are now removed if you complete the quest with multiple copies and you get 600 gold per copy of the quest card. Fix Crystal Sphere event giving potion rewards of the wrong rarity. Fix Perfect Fit enchantment not working if you play Reboot while the enchanted card is in your hand or draw pile. Gnarl Hammer Relic can no longer be traded at the Relic Trader event. War Historian Repi event now removes all duplicate Lantern key cards if you have more than 2. Potions and Relics. Fix Mummified Hand Relic, sometimes selecting cards that already cost 0. Fix the Boot Relic, amplifying bad luck curses damage from 1 to 5 when you have Intangible, and dealing the correct 5 damage when you deal Skulking Colony 1 to 4 damage. Self-Forming Clay Relic is no longer triggered by the terminal modifier's max HP loss. Bookmark Relic now applies its cost reduction to a card retained by Retain Your Hand effect like Equilibrium. Snecko Skull Relic now always triggers before Unsettling Lamp Relic. Fix Beetlejuice Potion, making Phantom's tail appear cut off. Players can no longer throw the foul potion while the merchant inventory is open, and using it on the merchant no longer freezes the game on controller. Fix visual errors with the outline of some potion assets. Fix broken controller navigation from relics to card rewards after rerolling via Driftwood, and completing Ori's card selection in the shop no longer also clicks a shop item on controller. Fix Pantograph Relic, letting Red Skull's strength increase persist after healing you above 50% health until an attack was played. Okay, Colorless. Fix visual effects sometimes failing to appear during the Rolling Boulder power effect. Fix a soft lock when playing Anointed card with a draw pile larger than their hand can hold. Fix being able to highlight creatures while the Purity card selection screen is open. Ironclad from Beyond card now plays from the exhaust pile after you draw in your hand instead of before. Fix Anger card played by Havoc, also exhausting on played. Fix being able to select an upgraded card with Armaments card if it was added to your hand by Largest Plus card. Not Yet card can no longer be generated via a skill potion. To avoid Infinite Lint. Fix being able to skip the Survivor card discard selection via the peek button. Fix Phantom Knives card visual effects not playing. You can no longer play cards before tools of the trade powers triggers. Regents. Bombardment card now placed in the exhaust pile after you draw in your hand instead of before. I'm Invincible card now triggers before you've discarded your hand instead of after. Regulite Relic no longer gains block from enemies applying statuses. Summon Forth card now puts existing Cyber Blades into your hand before forging instead of after. Fix not being able to select cards with the controller when you choose your whole hand via guards. Necrobinder. Fix a crash when Aussie dies during a scene transition. Fix Reeve card always bottom decking the soul card it creates. Fix Fetch card not glowing gold when drawn by Gambling Chip Relic. Fix Enfeebling Touch power causing Ceremonial Abyss to gain strength after you stun it. Funerary Mask Relic now shuffles souls into draw pile before your hand is drawn. Defect. Fix Beckon still damaging the player if combat is ended by Lightning Orbs. Fix a spacing issue in the Consuming Shadow power hover tip. Scrape no longer discards cards that cost 0 energy but have a star cost. Multiplayer. Fix a crash when using potions in multiplayer due to state divergence. Fix state divergence related to the event combats, the Crystal Sphere event, long event options, resolution, mad science / juggling cards with mixed combat speeds, and stampede plus headbutt cards. Fix players' names with brackets causing errors. Fix Pale's Legion and Vambrace relics not proccing when the owner applies block to other players. Fix occasional black screen when loading into a saved multiplayer combat. Fix incorrect cards being shown when obtaining cards at certain events, and Ori relic reporting the wrong cards to other players. Potions are now cancelled if targeted on a creature killed by another player. Corrected test subject HP scaling in multiplayer. Dense vegetation can no longer appear if any player has less than 8 HP. Fix a soft lock using Driftwood relic on your first run, and a rare soft lock loading into treasure room when a teammate uses controller. Strangle power no longer procs off of other players' card plays. Relics with turn-specific triggers like Candelabra no longer skip their trigger when another player takes an extra turn with Pale's Eye. Nightmare card visual effects no longer plays for all players. Other players' HP bars no longer go off screen when resizing the window in settings. Pillar of Creation, Supermassive, and Arsenal cards now proc for the player who played Largest rather than the recipient. You can no longer buy items at the shop while transitioning rooms, and exiting the merchant no longer skips history recording for remaining players. The correct error message is now shown for a Steam multiplayer connection timeout, error 5008, and improved reporting for a rare connection error. The show multiplayer drawings tick box is now correctly localized. You can no longer start a loaded multiplayer game with only one person. Performance. Reduce stuttering when combat effects appear for the first time in a run. Modding. The base game no longer deletes progress from mods that are removed or errored. Latest beta fixes. This is new stuff. We did it! We got there! Okay. General, fix many instances of inconsistent RNG behavior. Fix more cases of daily runs diverging based on player network ID. Multiplayer, fix a state divergence caused by the host changing assumptions as the game is starting. Modding, begin publishing Spire 2.dll XML documentation. Fixed Steam mods causing reflection helper.mod types to return nothing. Whoa. That was insanely long. All right. The main thing here is just the RNG fix, which again is all I care about. That's all I care about. I really am excited to play the game now because I don't have to think about this anymore. I don't know what the thing that people were requesting for a month was. I think it's the modding stuff, the Steam Workshop. We did already have modding. Like, I already have a mod installed for like Slay the Relics for people to be able to mouse over relics and stuff. But now we'll actually be able to evaluate things for real, for real. Overall, like, basically a nothing burger of a patch, except for the thing that matters the most. Yeah, nothing burger patch except the most important change in Slay the Spire history. It's kind of true. This is literally all I care about. So I'm happy. Not happy that I read all that for 30 minutes. That was insane. This is so much reading, dude. So much. Oh, I'm so happy. I'm so happy, dude. I mean, anyone that's been watching for the past week has known how like doomer I've been. Like, I just haven't wanted to play, really. We're so back.